Phil Foden was the Manchester City hero on Sunday as his 2 goals helped City fight back from a goal down to beat Manchester United, their bitter local rivals, 3-1 to put themselves back within just a point of Liverpool at the top of the Premier League. The sniper was the back page headline on Monday morning's Sun. Phil is the best player in the Premier League, and Kyle Walker said we call our 2-goal star the sniper. I'm joined by my tap-in co-host and Sunsport football reporter Izzy Barker to have a chat about these wild claims that are coming out from Pep Guardiola and many of the other pundits and ex-players in and around the world of football, saying that Phil is not only one of the best players at Manchester City, he's now the best player in the Premier League, according to his manager. Guardiola was also heard afterwards discussing him in the same breath as Lionel Messi. He was at great pains to say he wasn't comparing him directly. But first of all, before we get into the nitty-gritty, Phil Foden, is he the best player in the Premier League?
Well, I feel like it's Phil Foden's world and we're all just living in it at the minute. Obviously, like, it just was a Phil Foden moment, wasn't it? Like, it was, he's a boyhood fan. He was playing in a derby. He put in an absolute shift. You just have to watch him and he goes up the pitch scoring goals, but he's tracking back in the dying seconds and then jeering up the crowd and just shows what it means to him. Certainly kind of, I don't know, silencing Marcus Rashford as well, obviously a United fan, a local boy. It was just his moment for sure. I don't think he is the Prem's best ever player at the minute, but time will tell. I think Phil Foden is one of those players that the more you play him, the better he is getting. And we see that with previous seasons. You know, every season, the more he's playing, the better he is getting. So only time will tell. And you see someone like Thomas Frank, actually, who I've worked with a lot, said Phil Foden is England's best chance of getting a Ballon d'Or. And I see that in the future.
Yeah, it's difficult because at the beginning of the season, he might not have got into Manchester City's top 3 players list, Foden, would he? Haaland and De Bruyne, of course. Bernardo Silva's been performing admirably even over a long period of time. Kyle Walker, outstanding. Ederson, world class. And you all almost felt that as good as Foden is and the fact he would walk into most other Premier League teams, I think that's fair to say, that such is the quality at City that he may have struggled to really sort of break through and cement himself as a firm favourite. You always sort of felt in his City career so far that he's just a game or two away from getting dropped to the bench again and letting someone else come in and have a go. But he's a mainstay this season. What do you make of, you know, you said you're not sure if he's quite there yet. Who would you consider better than him? Erling Haaland not having quite such a glittering campaign as he did last season. Kevin De Bruyne's injuries have obviously hampered him. He's just coming back slowly from those. So he's shining for Man City. Who else in the league do you sort of put above Foden at the moment, if it's not his 2 City teammates?
No, that's a good point, to be fair. I think, but this game in particular might be a turning point in terms of that, because you see Haaland and he was outshining Haaland, a player like that. Elsewhere in the league, if you look at the likes of Saka, Salah, I'd probably just put them above him sort of at this point. But he's definitely up there. And as I said, it's kind of like hindsight's been a beautiful thing. You kind of wonder what could have been if he had been involved more in the City setup. But I just think, as I've said before, he's just going to get better and better.
Yeah, it's an intriguing rise. His comments after the game, Foden, saying that there's nothing, I'm just, my hard work on the training ground, that I'm getting the rewards I deserve. There's been lots of talks from Pep and those in and around City of like a newfound hard work and focus that's come with a bit of maturity, perhaps. I think Guardiola's comments after the Manchester derby saying just that, saying he's maturing now and he's working hard defensively off the ball. He's saying that he missed a chance early in that game and a bit of nervousness crept in, which was because of his age. But you can clearly see him developing and getting better and better. What do you think his future holds at Manchester City? Why would you go anywhere else, I guess?
I don't think he's going to go anywhere else. This is a man that's like used the same barber since he was 8 years old and pays 20 quid for a haircut every week.
You can tell that sometimes, to be fair.
With that hairline, yeah. So I think he's very loyal to City. I know, like, people around the area, they would see his family in sort of like the same Italian restaurant. Like, he clearly lives and breathes City and the area. I think in terms of maturity, I think that's a really important word with Foden because, you know, this is a player that's had a lot of his, personal life in the spotlight. We've covered it a lot at The Sun. I remember with Foden, it was just hours after he made his senior debut with England that he was in all this controversy in Iceland, with Mason Greenwood, inviting girls during a time of COVID, during a pandemic, back to a hotel room. And they were, axed from the camp. They had security looking for them in the hotel. This was a player that, we thought, are we going to put our trust in him as a nation? Do we want him representing us and putting the England shirt on? And I think it probably, credit needs to be given to him in terms of how he has matured since then and how he has kind of got on the straight and narrow. I don't know how much Pep's been involved in that, but to kind of come through that, because you see a lot of young players, go down the wrong path after things like that. But for him to come through, I think is credit to him, and I think we're seeing that now. But I think at that point, I don't know what you thought, Will, but I don't know if I ever saw him having an England career. Now we're like, let's build the team around Phil Foden.
Well, we'll chat about the England stuff in a bit, I think. But just as far as at City at the moment, it's such a unique situation there because the level of quality in every single position is so high. Even this season, as well as he's playing, I think it's his best ever goal-scoring return. Even at this stage of the season, you're still sort of in a situation where you're not certain he's going to play every week still, which seems bizarre given that he's playing so well. And I think that is part of what it's like playing under Pep Guardiola. He chops and changes a lot, doesn't he? I mean, there's only 2 or 3, I would say, who you're pretty sure that if they're fit will be in Guardiola's team every week. Haaland, Rodri, Ederson, probably Kyle Walker. And I know he's been a little bit more consistent in his team selection this season, but even after the performance in the Manchester derby, even after all the stats that are telling everyone he's had the best season he's ever had, he's still, I don't think he's the first name on people's England team sheet for sure. And even at City now, he's only just about cementing himself into the team, it appears.
Yeah, I think it's two aspects, isn't it? It's what you touched on in terms of that. He's still not a guaranteed starter every City game, and still not probably viewed, like we were saying, as the best City player, even though that performance at Man United and things like that. But it's also it's where you play him, what position you play him in. Yeah. Obviously, he shows how versatile he is. He prefers playing in the middle, what he says, but obviously he can be put out wide. And I guess it's how that fits into Southgate's setup and the other names on the team sheet going on that plane as well.
But Phil Foden walks into Arsenal's team, doesn't he? He walks in. I know Bukayo Saka, fantastic on the right. Arsenal really got a centre forward who's doing anything at the moment. But if you can, Martinelli, good player. Foden smashes him out of the water as far as his ability. I think that's what Pep Guardiola loves about him as well. He can play in the middle, on the left and in off the right, cutting in onto that left foot, which is becoming more and more Iron Robin-like as every week goes past. But he walks into Arsenal's team. He walks into any other team in the Premier League. Beyond that, Liverpool, I know they play a slightly different way, but he's an improvement on Diogo Jota, isn't he? I know you've obviously got Mo Salah and Darwin Núñez, but I feel like he walks into any other team in the Premier League, and the fact that the England manager and most England fans are still having question marks about whether he starts at the Euros is baffling. But do you see him fitting in that team and playing on the left, which it probably doesn't feel like is his best position?
I think so. I think what England has to do is build the team around Bellingham and Foden. I think those are the two focal points of the team. I think, like you say, maybe it'd be on that left-hand side, but fitting the team around where they feel comfortable and where they want to play would be the best option for us. I think for so many years, Southgate's kind of been criticised for wasting such, being at risk of wasting such a golden generation of talent that we've got in England. And like you say, listing off all these names that could potentially not even get on the plane. It's going to be such fierce competition.
What can he do then? Is he going forward? I mean, he's still quite young now. Pep Guardiola saying he's the best player in the Premier League this season. You mentioned Thomas Frank saying he's England's best hope of a Ballon d'Or. I'm pretty sure Jude Bellingham would have something to say about that. If you're Phil Foden now, if you were in charge of his sort of career, where do you go? How do you improve? How do you kick on from winning a treble with Man City? Pep Guardiola saying you're the league's best player. How do you kick on from there?
Well, I think Phil Foden is going to be key to deciding the title race this season. I think in matches like against Man United, I think he's shown that he's going to be key to navigating how the title goes. Like, it could all be down to Phil Foden, to be honest, in my opinion. Having seen him kind of overshadow Haaland's and look better than him, I think he could have a massive say in City winning another Premier League title. And then, his name is going to be on everyone's lips.
What does he have to do to win the Ballon d'Or then?
What does he have to do? Well, I think, like you say, I think Bellingham was going to have a little bit of a say in that one. But carry on with form like that, and he's going to be Phil Fodenino.
Phil Fodenino, indeed. Yeah, but Phil Foden, England's greatest hope for the next 10 years alongside Jude Bellingham. Surely one of those young crop of exciting players. Pep Guardiola clearly pleased with him, as are his Manchester City teammates. The world is his oyster for Phil Fodenini.